I'm Mike Holman, VP of Research at Lux Research, here at the Lux Executive Summit with John Suh, who's the Managing Director of Hyundai Ventures. And I thought we could just get started by hearing a little bit about your sort of what's your overall mission at Hyundai Ventures, and how do you fit into the organization there?
So our overall mission is very simple. It's innovate or die, meaning that what we're trying to do is accelerate innovation through technology into our automotive or other businesses within Hyundai Motor Group. So we can do it in a variety of ways. It could be, as I briefly mentioned, investments through venturing. It could be partnerships, that is more of a business-to-business kind of relationship, or other kinds of activities. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is accelerate innovation into one of Hyundai's businesses.
Mm-hmm. So what type of, is there the sort of particular technology areas or things that you're looking for, or you're especially looking into right now?
The way we like to think about it is themes, and we have 4 general themes that we like to use as windows into different technologies. The first theme being the convergence of mobile devices, internet, and automotive. And in that area, I would say one of the leading stories, if you will, in that area would be how smartphones are being integrated into cars even more deeply through things such as CarPlay from Apple or Google's Open Automotive Alliance. The second area is automotive clean tech. So it's all manner of energy storage, energy generation, semiconductors, materials, lightweighting, things that make cars and vehicles more eco-friendly. That's another big theme. The third theme is intelligent systems. That's anything that makes anything smart. So I'd say you can imagine the things that make smartphones smart, so sensors, computing, algorithms, so kind of falls in that category. And the fourth area is technology-enabled new business models for personal mobility or transportation. I also include in there enterprise innovation. I think the good example in that final category would be transportation on demand, how in different parts of the world, in different cities, we can call
something like Uber.
Something like Uber would be a good example, right?
I mean, it seems like there's a mix in there, right, of things that you're looking at that could be sort of more incremental, or maybe not incremental, but significant improvements to the kind of existing product platforms, versus some other things that, like something like Uber is kind of gets you into or Zipcar, right? Things that get you into something that's much more disruptive to kind of the fundamental business model. You really looking for things kind of in both of those categories, or do you have a focus more on one or the other?
No, we do. We have it's a spectrum of technologies, and therefore a spectrum of innovation. So I would say ranging from incremental to something more transformative or perhaps even disruptive. So there are things that might go into the very core of the vehicle that's is sort of an incremental improvement. Everything from improving engine technology, transmission technology, or even using innovations that are relatively old but are now at a point which they can be more applied into the car. Such as, for instance, we recently invested in a company doing aerogels, which is not a new technology, but has gotten to a point where the processing and the cost and the applicability into automotive is now making more sense as a heat shield to replace existing metals that might do the same function. Things that are more disruptive, we also look at too. It's a little more challenging because those things by definition are a little bit more in the future, have less definition, have less of a known fit, if you will. But we do like to explore it, at the very least, explore those what we call adjacent areas, or even potentially new businesses within the group itself. And so we are constantly looking across the spectrum of that innovation opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting time to be involved in innovation in the automotive industry, because I mean, you could at least make the argument that over the next 10, maybe 15, 20 years, you're going to see more more changes to the core platform of the automobile than the industry has maybe seen ever. And so I'm just curious to see your views on that. Like, what do you think is really going to be the stuff that's fascinating and different 10 years from now?
10 years from now, and that's a great question, because I think about that a lot. And what can really change in 10 years? And if you look at if you from the viewpoint of powertrain, I anticipate and from what I've read, would agree that the internal combustion engine, whether it's diesel or gasoline or some other liquid fuel, will be the dominant technology for the powertrain. So I don't expect 10-year time frame for that to change. Now there will be, I would describe it as incremental changes. So things like start-stop technology, maybe some hybridization, maybe even plug-in hybridization, but it's still essentially as a platform baseline an internal combustion engine. Now if you go, I would have to push it to maybe the 20 plus year time frame to see more changes. And some of it's sort of paced by I think in one way is by battery technology, which there are lots of research going on. There are lots of improvements going on there, but technologies such as batteries do have a certain, for whatever reason, a certain progression timeline that they kind of follow, if you will. I mean, maybe not by design, but just by the nature of what batteries are.
Yeah. I mean, one of the other areas where you think about Google's doing self-driving cars. You talked about the intelligent system, so that's another area that I think you can look at and see that it may be a little further off, but at least there's some potentially pretty profound changes on the horizon there.
Yeah. Innovations based on what you might call information technology, if you will, which is I've used that term in a very broad sense. Those changes will happen much faster than that. I think within the 10 years we will see lots of changes, because if you go 10 years from today, so 2005, let's say, there was no iPhone, there was no Android based smartphones. Smartphones in general was not a very big product category, but now it's a fairly dominant product category for mobile communications. So 10 years from today, I would say those types of things will, of course, continue to happen, and so the impact to automotive will be even more prevalent. And we're kind of beginning to see these things happening today. So everything from partial automation, if you will, through more full automation, connectivity either through your smartphone, embedded. I would say we don't talk about it much, but the so-called wearables category of devices will be yet another avenue of connectivity. We're beginning to see it today, of course, and so I think 10 years from now we'll be talking about how wearables is a class of connectivity, if you will. So things like data become very important. Big data, analytics, predictive, and otherwise will begin to influence how people relate to things, including cars and our houses and where we live and so on. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And enjoyed the conversation, and look forward to enjoying the rest of the summit here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Mike.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay.